Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Evening, actually, this session has to be taken by Dr. Ashok, but due to some important meeting, he is not able to take class. So, in
Okay,
place of him, I will try to cover today's slides, today's topic.
okay, sir.
So, let us wait 2 3 minutes so that other may join.
Okay, sure, sir. Excuse me, sir. I have one doubt, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, for assignment, I can write both sides of A4 size sheet of paper.
Yes, you can.
Okay,
You
sir.
can write both side of paper, but please keep some space for comments of academic counselors.
Okay, sir.
Because what happen, whatever you are writing in the form of your answer, there may be some place of improvement so that academic counselor used to give kind of comments by going through that comments you will perform better in term and examination, because
Oh,
assignment is not just writing the answer of questions. It is a preparation of term and examination, and it is a part of comprehensive continuation evolution. So it is very important.
okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So today's, let us start because it will be recording. It will be recorded. Today's is MES 084, and that is practices in modern preschool education. And today we will discuss the block one, which may have at least 3 4 units. So unit first is about child rearing practice in modern society. Rearing means kind of nurturing, kind of motivation, kind of helping them. So this is comes under the rearing. So in today's topic, we will discuss what is the relevance of child rearing practices, and what are the contemporary influence on the child rearing practices, and there are some suggestions for developing proper child rearing practices, and compare child rearing practices prevailing in various societies, because child rearing practices are not same in all kind of society. It is differ place to place and state to state. And next is the scope of good child rearing practices in present context. What are the good child practices for child rearing in present context? So let us take one by one. So first of all, we will try to understand what is the importance of child rearing practices in modern society. As you are aware that child rearing needs total involvement, unconditional love of parents and family and society, probably schools, commitments is perseverance and total support, all kind of support for the development of the child on the part of parents and relatives. So this is the first importance for child rearing practices. The second is child rearing varies according to different parenting styles. In rich families, the child rearing practices is different. In the mediocre families, the child rearing practices are different, and in the rich families, it is certainly different. That is right education at right time. If the family is aware and they know what right education and what is the right time, and what kind of nurturing are required, and healthy food, what kind of healthy food should be given to the child, and what medical care is required, and what medical care is required and what time also, and what are the emotional securities and support. So these are the important, and these all depends family to family and society to society. So child rearing practices depends on the parenting styles. Child rearing means training or bringing up child by parents or parent substitute. Parent substitute, they may be the uncle, brother, elder brother, and sisters, etc. So, what kind of training they are giving to their child? This comes also under a child rearing practices. It differs from parenting in the sense that in child rearing, the emphasis on the act or training or bringing up a child and the interaction between parents and child. See, parenting is something else, but the child rearing include kind of involvement, kind of support, kind of commitment. So it is different. Parenting means if you are giving the time to time food, it may comes under the parenting, but child rearing means all round care of the child. So by going through the all above assumptions and importance, we can say that child rearing practices, as explained by this Bouchard in 1994 and Jenny and O'Connor in 2005, that transmission of all traditions, beliefs, culture, and cognitive actions from parents to the offsprings, that all comes under the child rearing, because all the traditions from one generation to second generation, beliefs, cultures, cognitive actions, these all comes under the child rearing practices. Next. Child rearing practices in modern society, it is in continuity the previous slides. Social science experts identify the following dimensions of child rearing practices. What they are: training for obedience. Means if we are giving the training to the child regarding obedience, one should be obedient. So it comes under the child rearing practices. So one is training for obedience, training to take responsibilities. If we are making the child to take responsibility, it means we are doing kind of child rearing practices. Training to take care of and help younger siblings and other dependent pupil. This is, comes under the child rearing practices. The next is training to achieve standards of excellence in performance. Means whatever they are doing day by day, they should achieve the standard for excellence in the performance. Whatever they are doing, that may be the kind of learning, that may be the kind of playing, that may be the kind of singing, that may be the other activities in which they are involved. Training of to care of themselves and to be independent. Yes, child rearing, the most important. The main focus of the parents to make the child independent. The significant the significance of the child rearing practices is as follows. Why the child rearing practices and what is the significance? To develop awareness about child care for the overall growth of the child, to make him or her complete person. This is the main significance of the child rearing practices. The next is to fill the gap in the knowledge about child rearing. Whatever the child is facing difficulties to learn and to understand, So it is the duty and responsibility of teacher and parents through the child rearing practices. They should fill the gap. To understand child rearing practices with respect to cultural differences, you all are aware there are state to state and place to place. There are various cultural differences, and these cultural differences has to be taught by their parents, their society, and the schools to pass information to people who are engaged in child health and care. See, if we, as we are teacher, then if we are facing, and we are learning the child, we are understanding the child. If whatever comes our mind, like his, factors which are influencing their physical growth and mental growth, then we should inform these to the health care who are taking care of the child in respect to their health. So it is also comes under child rearing practices. As a teacher, as a parents, we should inform the weaknesses of the child to the doctors and the medical support who are giving to the child. To translate the knowledge obtained into the actions, whatever learners learn in the school, in the uh, peer group, in the home, but that should be transformed into the actions. Suppose if he know that 2 plus 3 equal to 5, if you give the object 2 pencils and 3 pencils, and you ask what how many pencils are there, then he or she should correctly answer. So whatever he learn, all knowledge should transfer into the actions. So this is the child rearing practices in modern society. So, what are the influence on child rearing practices? So, by going through the child rearing practices, as you are aware, the main motive to make the child independent and in the independency and to learn the good knowledge and new knowledge. So, by going through, there are some important factor which influence on the child rearing practices. One is discipline. Discipline directs the child in developing an understanding about desirable and undesirable behavior expected from them, because it is the child rearing practices who tell the uh, child then what are the expected accepted behavior and what is not. Means kind of abusing should not be there, unnecessarily loud noise should not be there. So these comes under the discipline. Goals. Each parent has different goals based on different parenting style. This is also an important factor, because one parent may has goal that his child or her child should be a government officer, and others may be his or her child should be a good manager, and others may that he or she should be a good worker in their parental firm or business. So goals of parents are different, and accordingly their parenting style are also different. Educated parents, this is also kind of a factor, because joint family sorry knowledgeable parents not only provide good education to their children but also lead them in right way of living, because the educated persons know then what kind of food should be given, what kind of nurturing, what kind of nutrition should be given to the child, along with the knowledge and education. Type of family. Child rearing practices are different in joint families as well as in nuclear families, because they have all their own style. If the family is joint, there may be other kind of child rearing practices. If because their grandfather, grandmother, and other relatives are there, they play very important role for all round development of the child. Whereas the nuclear family, only mother, father are there, and very few moment comes to the child that he or she may listen good stories and good rhymes and for the cultural transmissions. So it is very less opportunities in nuclear families for the child, because in the transferring of traditions and knowledge from one generation to other generation. Parents' values, beliefs, and religious faith is also a kind of influence because uh, their value, their beliefs, their religious faith also directly indirectly gives impact on the child. Parental personal experience and values are most deciding factors influencing their rearing practices. Religion of parents too surface as one of the factors that influence the child rearing. Yes, the religious religion of parents, because every religion have different kind of child rearing practices. Economy, yes, it is also because if the economy of family is good, their child rearing practice also different as the other family which are very poor. So it affects the livelihood, work pattern, facilities, provisions, structure of the family, relationship, in turn, child rearing practices too. Growth of urban areas, old ways of doing things, and traditional child rearing practices are being replaced by a new model of child rearing. You know, if the area is kind of rural or kind of unstructured, kind of tribal. So their child rearing practices are not as good as where the locality is kind of urban and family are educated and living style is comparatively good. So all these factors influence the child rearing practice. One is discipline, then goal of the family, education of parents, type of family, parents' values, belief, and religious and economy and the society, whether it is rural or it is urban. Next, essential element for good child rearing for whatever is the family type, whatever is the society. So, what are the essential elements for good child learning? Sorry, rearing. One is quality time is important for parents when the issue of child rearing comes up. Means every parent should give proper, at least minimum time to their child for their development, for to understand them and to know their requirement in term of their overall development. Children needs both male and female role models. If the child is male, then he or she is also has a role model like a father and mother, and as applicable to female also. They all have role model. So every parent should behave, should act accordingly, properly, so that they may consider as a role model. Do not spoil the child by showering presents and try to avoid parents' guilt feeling. Whatever, sometimes parents also have some guilt that I am poor, that I am not as good as I'm not good father as I may be. So it should be avoided. Every parents is good. Every parents is important for their children. Do not encourage misbehaviors like stealing, lying, aggression, etc. As a parent, we should not encourage our child for misbehaving and kind of stealing, kind of aggression. If it is, if it comes under in the child, then it is our duty patiently. We should deal their attitudes and and we should be ready to scolding or sorry, we should be nurture them without shouting and without shaming and scolding them. So we should be very cautious by dealing if our child are misbehaving or kind of stealing and other bad habits comes in the child. So be aware of physical and psychological change of your children. If our child is growing up or if he or she is taking some kind of fats, means he is becoming fat or she is becoming fat. So we should be aware then what weight he or she is attaining and what is the height he or she is attaining. We should be very much aware, even in their psychological change also, like hair, nail, and others psychological change. Guide your children towards healthy eating habits. Yes, it is the duty of parents that we should guide our child. Then there are times breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then we should not give food every time to the child. There should be a good, healthy eating habit. Be aware of oral health of the children and pay visit occasionally to the dentist. Yes, we should be much aware about the oral health of the child, and in a interval we should go to the dentist doctors for their routine checkup. Promote positive emotions like self-esteem, self-confidence, self. We should motivate our child for their self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, cooperation, kindness, joy, and slightness, etc. So we should be motivate our child if the good habits is coming up. Understand and discipline and punishment are also are totally different concept. Yes, discipline and punishment both are not same, because discipline comes uh, within the child by their own, but punishment is a kind of is not, because by the punishment you, as a teacher, as a parents, we cannot force the child to make their to change their attitude. They may accept whatever we are uh, wanting from them, but it is the discipline where the child actually learn from their, from by their own. Open communication channel with your children. We should be too much open with our children so that they may express their problems, their issues, their good things to their parents. Children start asking questions from around the age of 3 onward. This is one fact that after the age of 3, the child start questioning from their parents for their peer group. So one should be, all should be understand that this is the age. After this age, the child will ask questions one by one, and sometimes he may ask many questions at a time. So one should be very ready to answer the questions of the child. So this is the child rearing practices. What are child rearing practices, and what is the influencing factor, and what is the essential element of child rearing practices. Next. So what are the current trends in child rearing practices? Child rearing practices in Indian context. India is one among the most potential countries in the world term of human resource, because the adult maximum adult education lives in the India. So we are very rich with about 3, 4, 5 million children. Child rearing in Indian system has strong roots on family culture. For child rearing practices in India, family is the most important roots, and its structural patterns like socioeconomic status, religious belief have important role on these practices in Indian context. Indian mothers are very close to their babies. They enjoy physical closeness to their babies. Indian families strongly favor male children in all respect than female child. So these are the fact about the child rearing practices in Indian context. So child rearing practices in Swedish system. Swedish parents enjoy government subsidies and all benefits to bring up their children. Swedish government provides leave for both mother and father to look after the baby up to the 16 month. They, the culture of Swedish society assume that both father and mother are equally responsible physically, psychologically, and economically parenting. Swedish, Sweden has a culture and values children and their rights as they grow up into the full potential citizens. So this is the system of Sweden. The next is American style. What are the child rearing practices? In USA, Schools focus on individualistic approach. Children learn right attitude and values primarily from their home environment, then from schools and peer groups. As Americans place a high value on dignity of labor, they encourage their children to engage in summer jobs and other part-time assignments. American parents are more concerned about children's self-esteem and feelings. They gives more scope for individualism and self-expression. So this is the example of three cultural. One the Indian contracts, then second is Swedish as per your syllabus, and the third in American system. And in the all three places, the parent this rearing practices are different. In Indian, the whole sole responsibility of family. In Swedish, it is the responsibility of government, but in coordination with family. And the third is it is the responsibility of schools with the coordination of family. So this is the current trends in child rearing practices. So this is unit one talks about the what are the child rearing practices and what it is. The second unit talks about the comparison of child rearing practices in developed and developing countries. And a small overview has given in previous unit. So in the second unit, we will be able to understand the meaning and importance of child rearing practices, although we have already discuss the factors that influence the child rearing practices that we have also covered in some extent. Discuss the child rearing practices in various countries that we will discuss. Compare the major child rearing activities in developed and developing countries. So let us take factors affecting child rearing practice, although we have kind of discussed in previous slides, like cultural difference that we have discussed, because many society have their different kind of cultural difference, and therefore the child rearing practices differ in different cultural background. Historically, in this wet list home, the children shared bedrooms and beds. Even today, this Hispanic immigrant families believes that parents or adults sleeps with young children. So this is the cultural difference. In every cultural difference has a special type of child rearing practices. Discipline that we have discussed, that if discipline is the important part in child rearing practices, because some parents are very strict in terms of discipline and they expect their children to go to be good in all time. Some other parents believe that children are naturally good and they give more freedom to the children. But many parents encourage their children for learning lessons by natural consequences. So this is a discipline. Values and attitude is also influencing factor. Values and attitude preached in the family are being absorbed by the child. Some parents send their children for work, but adolescents encourage employment just because they can use the money as they like. So, values, discipline, and cultural, these are the influencing factor. Next. This is the child rearing practices in developed countries. Sweden, we have discussed uh, that Swedish babies are lucky as government takes this child rearing very seriously. Government provides subsidy for child rearing and also support the right of the children, means equal time for parents, emphasis on work, social emphasis, treatment of children, government support of parenting, preschool education. So this is the child rearing practice in Sweden. Japan, also in Japan, children fewer than 7 are traditionally regarded as belonging to the gods, because they believe that every child is belong to the god. To keep the god happy, the children are treated with compassion so that they don't go back to the gods. So periodical health checkup, uh, this consultation service and financial aid from time to time. Children allowance are also there. Education is also important for every child, and other child care facilities include that following: that home child care services, child care for sick children, short stay child care, temporary child care, like that may be the in school time or daytime, and a mother child living support facilities also. So this is the practices which are taking in Japan. Next, United States, America, that we have discussed in previous slides, but let us again discuss. The America child rearing practices have roots in certain sects of Christianity, because America believes in Christianity. In USA, children's benefits lots from preschool education. There, most of the parents works outside the home. So to meet the need of the children, they depend on preschool and day care educational program. Preschool education in USA is a government-funded educational program which is organized and administered at the local and state level preschools. The US Congress has passed No Child Left Behind Act, means every child should be taken care. Methods of preschool education. The activities of preschools include art and craft, music, educational goals, this perceptual motor activities, and listening skills. But the France has the different kinds of cultural this child rearing practices. From 3 months onward, babies are sent to crèche. The French public nurseries and daycare centers are funded by local and regional authorities, and parental fees. Alternative programs for babies. Assistant this maternals, it is for babies or after school care for older children. They are paid to look after children either on their own premises or at the home of child. They are allowed to take 5 children at a time. They should have state child care diploma and subjected to regular inspections. Means kind of qualifications are also prescribed for is nurturing the child. Crutch parentals, these are run by the parent association. Parent can pay an equal share of cost. They provide food and equipment and play an active role in nursery management. So this is the system of France. New Zealand is also there. The mothers in New Zealand are serious and dedicate themselves for caregiving their babies. Most of them have no choice, since they often have no close family support because they are living in kind of this nuclear family. And since the father often worked long hours, many of the mothers left Europe unproven and are sometimes unknowledged. The nursery system in New Zealand is like the kindergarten type. They admit children of age 2.5. These schools are controlled by teachers with the ratio of one teacher is to the 15 children. And in the kindergarten, some play center are there, daycare also there, and some playgroup activities. Play centers are managed by parents. From birth, children can attend with parents and gradually without parent support. Like daycare also, because daycare they have follow some childhood curriculum. Its procedure is more flexible than kindergarten and play centers. There is a less parental involvement and expense is high, because daycare the many caretakers are also required, so expenses are high. Playgroup. Many preschools playgroups are providing their services for child rearing. They meet weekly or fortnightly. Sometimes the programs are drama classes, gyms group, music group, coffee group, and this crush group, and library stay times, etc. etc. This is the system in New Zealand. which is being adopted for child caring activities. If we talk child rearing practices in developing countries like India, Pakistan, China, Egypt, India, we have discussed since first day. A childhood viewed as a sensitive period where children can be molded as you like, because this is the kind of first age in which the child learn at very rapid and very fast rate. The environment and the parents play an important role in child development. Indian mothers affectionate with their babies and very close to their babies. Indian children given opportunity for growth, for self growth. There is a firm family bond, and the children are raised with love in the family. Strict discipline is followed in Indian family, mostly taken care by mothers. Indian families prefers boys over girls. Siblings are also in charge of taking care of their younger one. Pakistan nursery and kindergarten schools are the main preschool education centers in Pakistan. They are run by private sectors, mainly by Christian missionaries and mainly for working parents. The students of these classes range between age 3 to 5 are known as this Kachi. China preschool in China are also known as kindergarten. Programs in kindergarten are for children of 3 to 6 year age. It include week-long boarding, that is, the children arrive on Monday morning and return to home every Friday evening. Egypt is also one of them. The early childhood education is in turn with Arabic culture. The daycare centers are administered by Ministry of Social Affairs in Egypt. Nursery schools accepts children between 2 to 3 years. The private nurseries are costly, while others are expensive. But the lack of resources and personnel, they are inexpensive. Some are sponsored by private organizations like women societies, mosque, church, and industrial factories, and this residential and recreational clubs also there. Next, there is a kind of comparison of because while going through the practices which are using in developed and the developing countries. So all developed countries recognize the importance of giving training and experience for the young ones and start from earliest day as far as possible compared with developing countries. This is the one difference. In the both cases, responsibility of child rearing is put on the shoulder of women. Men participation is comparatively less. Now they encourage sharing of responsibilities between father and mother. Researches show that the both developed and developing countries seriously look on the upbringing of their babies, and the government passed various acts to provide financial support for running various pre-primary schools, giving nutritious food, medical care, and providing good training to the teachers. Means in the both cases, governments are also serious. The developed countries treat boys and girls equal, whereas developing countries prefer boy over girl. Developed countries concentrated on individual development of the very new generation, but the developing countries give emphasis for social development. Children of developed countries experience more freedom than the developing countries. Educational availability in higher in developed countries, whereas the children enjoy various type of grant and other facilities. Recently, there is a progressive change in this field in the developing countries too. Well organized program in developed countries make the training systematic and effective. Developing countries also trying to implement quality programs. So this is the difference between developed and developing countries in respect to child rearing practices. This is the kind of chart given that pre-primary enrollment in developed and developing country, USA, Japan, France, New Zealand, Sweden. You must see the enrollment is high as compared to this developing country like India, China, Pakistan, and Egypt. This is a kind of overview. This is third unit. Let us take some 30 minutes and 1 minute break, and we will start the unit 3, which talk about childhood education in India and what are the current practices. Yes. So today's discussion, the history of early childhood education in India, although we have discussed in many times, explain major policy framework which facilitate childhood education in India, discuss how to select ideal practices for organizing a preschool program, analyzing the needs for this eclectic approach and child rearing, judge the adequacies and adequateness of current practices and drive the measures to improve their practices. Let us take one by one. So, what is the history of childhood education? We will have slight preview because we have discussed in previous. It presently emphasize systematic and scientific way of early childhood education is more recent development in India. If you analyze Indian education history, it is clearly says that the traditionally the formal education was limited to certain sections of society, and most female children were denied education due to social discrimination and stigma. And the gender disimbalance was found. Integrated Child Development Services, which is in short ICDS, was started in 1975 after independence, which is perhaps the world's largest non-formal education program of its kinds for the youth children targeting health and nutrition. National Policy on Education, which came in 1986, give very special emphasis on early childhood care education and provide distinct classification within the own priorities. Since July 2006, the early childhood care education has been shifted to Ministry of Women and Child Development. Earlier, it was with the Department of Education under Ministry of Human Resources. And one of the major change came after the RTE 2009, and that provide opportunity to the every child that every child should have a right to education, 6 to 14-year age. Philosophy of preschool education. Various philosophy have been given in term of preschool education, like Froebel has given philosophy that mainly the preschool children from age 3 to 7 years. He believes that early childhood experience from the basis for future development for a person. He also believed that children need a place where they could grow naturally and spontaneously for developing their creativity and skills. He assumes that kindergarten is a place where young children are nurtured with appropriate training. So this is the philosophy of Froebel. The second is Maria Montessori. You know the Maria Montessori started various schools, many schools in India and other countries. She identified certain sensitive period of development crucial for certain kinds of learning. She felt that a prepared environment, children learn spontaneously and develop their this potentiality to the maximum extent without any motivational externally. So kindergarten is the outcomes of Maria Montessori. Montessori schools are the outcomes are Maria Montessori. Philosophy of Anganwadi. Anganwadi is being used in India. Anganwadi followed a curriculum in early childhood care education. Is an unstructured manner for children below 3 year old. Play and develop oriented curriculum for 3 to 5 years old. And the school, they are the main place who are making the child for their readiness in the school and for the curriculum 4 to 6 year olds. Major policy frameworks, various policy frameworks came into the India like ICDS in 1975 that we have discussed. National Education Policy came in 1996. The most important National Nutrition Policy 1993 identify children from 0 to 6 years at high risk group and proposed to give high nutritional services to the children. Convention on Right of the Children that came in 1992, which decided to protect and safeguard the rights of children and with legal basis. National Policy on Environment of Empowerment of Women, which came in 2001, ensured the facilities for child care, including opening crèche at workplaces. National Plan of Actions for Children, it came in 2005, and that policy took very special interest on un, sorry, un, un, in universalization of early childhood care education, care, developmental support, and preschool learning opportunities to all children which are under the 6 year age. National Curriculum Framework, which is developed by the NCRT in 2005 based on New Education Policy 86, which advocated the 2 years of preschooling with playway methods which are developed appropriate. The 10th 5 year plans, 2002 to 2007 and 2007 to 2012, also given very emphasis on early childhood care education through the involvement or active involvement of ICDS. ICDS means that yeah, ICDS means this integrated child development services. Next, current practices in childhood education that we have discussed. ICDS, Government of India has recognized the universalization of ICDS as its fundamental methodology to attain the goal of early childhood education all over the country. Its programs are largely directed towards disadvantaged and poor sections of society. Anganwadi centers we have discussed. A part of both ICDS and Anganwadis, government initiatives, certain non-government organizations which are known as NGOs and voluntary organization association have also taken initiative in this area, and these organizations concentrate on children in difficult circumstances such as tribal communities, migrant laborers, children from specific contexts, etc. So this is the current practices in India like ICDS, Anganwadis, and involvement of NGOs. Ideal practices for preschool education. See maturity level of the child in preschool, that every individual have their own maturity level. High quality staff should be there in the preschools. School environment should be kind of cool and curriculum should be based on learners, means child centered curriculum should be there. Schedule of activities, every activities should be played for learning, involving kind of mathematics, kind of music, kind of stories, kind of physical development also. And parental involvement and community participation should be there in preschool, whatever being organized. Need for an eclectic approach. The school readiness approach targets learning through the distinct instructions, which allow more time to sheet work. The curriculum should include a basis of reading and writing, fundamental concepts of arithmetical, means 3R, the knowledge of 3R should be given to the child, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Arithmetic concepts could be developed through discs and dominoes, blocks, puzzles, etc. Means arithmetical knowledge, whatever being taught, that should be translate into the actions. Play could be considered as an important medium for social learning too. Children learn how to work with a group, how to negotiate, how to handle the disappointments, how to express their ideas to peer and elders during the group plays. So these are the kind of approach which are important for child rearing practices. So this is the, I think this is the last unit of this block. By taking some small break, we will start this unit 4, and that talks about the children education with respect to release regional specialties and practices. Means the child rearing practices are different, are unique as the regional specificities and the regional areas are concerned, because every region has some special dialects, some their special traditional, some their special cultures. So therefore, the child rearing practices are also um, kind of impact of these on child rearing practices. So let us have some small break and we will start this unit 4.
ए पहिला हैंड वॉश कर ले कवरे जाको हैंड वॉश दल को धोए की तो
Yes. So in this unit, we will be able to explain the childhood education practices in India, and we will be analyze the regional specificities in childhood education, strategies undertaken by the states for promoting childhood education, and evaluate the constitutional provisions and policies adopted by the government for childhood education and the implications of childhood education practices for preschool education in India. So first is, what are the regional differences and regional specialties? Across the states and districts, the literacy rates of female, scheduled caste, and scheduled tribes are low as compared with overall literacy rates. So this is the specificities. The World Bank observed that there is a remarkable difference in the child development among the various states in India. Like Bimaru states are having other low literacy rate, like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh are still lagging behind and are below the national average. Studies show that children belonging to rural areas reflect the least probability of attending the educational program as compared to children in urban areas. In rural areas, only 21.4% children are attending any school program, whereas in urban it is 36%. Interstate variation is also there in terms of participation in school programs. In a state like Kerala, Maharashtra, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, more than 25% children are enrolled in pre-schools. Children from states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa have very poor this propensity to participate in educational program, especially in preschool program. So if you see the region to region, the literacy rate and the enrollment ratio is very differ, and it is because of regional specificity. So government and parents and teachers should look into the differences, and the government policies should come across to bridge these speci- specificities so that the equal opportunity should be attained by the child. Project undertaking by the state, because every state have some project for their early childhood care education, like early childhood education project. Various research and developmental projects have been implemented for strengthening preschool education by reducing incidents of this dropout rates stagnation and dropout rates should be taken care for the child enrollment. This nutrition, education, and environmental uh, sanitation projects. These projects aim to develop this textual material on health, nutrition, and environmental sanitation. Community education and participation project. These projects aim to develop a package of educational program for the whole community using the available resources. This primary education curriculum renewal project, the aim of this project is to decentralize the formalization of syllabus of 6 to 11 year age and a comprehensive access to primary education project. This aims of the project to meet the minimum educational need of the out of school children in the age of 6 to 14 years. So these are some projects which are undertaken by the states. Provisions for childhood education in India. Various constitutional provisions are also there, although we have discussed. This Article 15 also says, talk about the state to take a step for the development of educational and economically weaker section. Article 45 also emphasis the state shall endeavor to provide early childhood care education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years. Beside that, 86 constitutional amendment of 2001 made elementary education as a fundamental right of children aging 6 to 14 years. Right to Education Act, which came in 2009, that we have discussed, every 6 to 14 age children should have free and compulsory education. Policies for early childhood care education. The national the Education Commission 1964, the National Policy on Education 1986 and Program of Action 1992 that we have discussed.
Una te escucho, Sevilla. చిన్న కుమాయిసా ऐसा होगा तो कौन होते हैं
Please, Yuran Khan, please mute yourself.
मैं तुझे पढ़ो बोली तो बुक उठा लेता को पढ़ो बोली सो
Are you listening me?
क्यों कुरान में मुसला रखो नहीं मान देख संभाल को उठा लेता ठीक नहीं
Yes. So National Nutrition Policy, National Commission for Children that we have discussed in previous slides. Childhood education practices in India that we have also discussed. In every state. We have some policies, some project like ICDS in all over India, early childhood education scheme in early India, Rajiv Gandhi National Crèche Scheme in everywhere, district primary school education program, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Mahila Samakhya program, Jan Shala program. These are the some policies and some action plans of India for early childhood education. Some voluntary initiatives are also there, some private initiatives are also there, and some NGOs actions are also there, and that is state to state. Implications for preschool education. Early childhood centers should be established within easy, reasonable distance from home of the child. All activities related to early child care education should be linked with primary schooling system. Mass public awareness program need to be undertaken to make the public awareness of various aspects of early child care education. The SCRTs and diets should be strengthened to have a state-based curricula in training of ECE early child care education functionaries. Lead the institutions should give proper training to trainers of diets and blocks at cluster levels, and considering the poor working conditions of early child care education workers, duly qualified and trained workers may be categorized as skilled worker, and they should be give proper remuneration to for further disseminating their services, because if the remuneration is not good, they will not act as they can act, or their motivation level will be not high. So this is the about unit 4. So we have tried to cover the all units of block 1 of 084, and I hope the tomorrow sessions will be taken by Dr. Ashok. So thank you. This is from my side. Have a good day and good night.
Sir? Sir?
Yes, Bolan, please.
Sir, which paper should we write our assignments? Can we write an A4 sheet, plain paper?
Yes. You can.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.